Okay, so let's talk a little bit about an alignment first off. Primarily, we're going to talk about what we call centerline alignments of roadways, but they could, like I said, they could be other things. But let's flip over to this a minute. Let's see. All right, so basically you can think of an alignment. It's just basically a bunch of straight lines, okay? And they're kinked or linked together. So what you have is a line and a line, and say another line. Okay, so this could represent the center line of a roadway. And usually you have a starting point, which could be over here. This would be your beginning. So this would be your start of your alignment. And this would be the end of that alignment. So these guys have a definite direction associated with them. Okay, so it knows that it's going from start to end. Now that's critical because that defines leftness and rightness on your alignment. So if my start point is here and my end point is here, literally put yourself at the start point looking towards the end point. If you line yourself up that way, this is your left side then, and this is your right side, okay? That's very important in the civil world because things are defined by station and then offset. So this would be considered your offset. And in the civil world or civil 3D, left is considered negative and right is considered positive. So that's going to be important. Those are going to be distances that we're going to be looking at. So as we define this thing through, this is a start point, and then basically this is just a distance, and then it changes direction. Let me put something here. So when you change direction in an alignment, you usually define it by an angle, which is called a delta angle, okay? So delta is basically the difference between these two bearings. And then we would have another delta angle here. So basically you can think of it starting point, change in direction. So we got a distance, change in direction, distance, change in direction, and you know, like that. So if you're using delta angles, you got to be aware. I mean, we need to be probably in degree minutes second. Okay, so if we're going to do that, we have to really pay attention to that in Civil 3D, because by default it's set to decimal degrees. Okay, so we have to kind of watch that. Then these points typically on an alignment are called PIs. PI stands for point of intersection. Okay, so we have a PI location, so start point. Sometimes these are referred to as PIs as well. Even though they're not an intersection, they're just like a starting PI and an ending PI, okay? Now, ultimately, if this is a roadway, we're gonna put some kind of curvature in here. So what we would have is some kind of curve that's coming in here like this, and it'll be defined by its starting point here and here, starting and ending rather. So what you'll have what's called a starting point and an ending point on this curve. And this is called a PC, point of curvature. So that's given a station point. And this point here is called a PT, point of tangency. So what happens in the alignment then goes from here to here as a straight line. Then it picks up here as an arc. So the distance goes from here to here as a bent distance. It no longer goes up here and here. And then if we put another kind of intersecting point in here, we would have another arc like that, and it has again, it's going to have a PC and a PT. So those are the kind of major things. Now there's a lot when we talk about curves, and you guys, some of you have had this class, some of you are in the middle of this class. There's a route surveying class you'll be taking. You talk about this stuff exclusively, but there's some defining parameters on this curve. So I'm just going to briefly talk about them. Primarily for let's say subdivision design or our kind of design, you would have two defining parameters, delta and the radius. Those are going to be usually your two things. But then there's other things. L would be the length of arc. That's your arc length. You have the distance from the PI back to the PC. That's called your tangent. You have what's called a chord, which is the straight shot distance from here to here. This would be your chord, usually abbreviated CH a lot of times. So CH would be your chord. And your chord will usually have two things associated with it. You'll know the distance of that chord, and you'll know the bearing on that chord. Okay. So you don't need all of these things to define it. You just need two of them, but you have to have enough to actually make a good arc. Oh, there's another one that we'll see called a degree of curve, D sub C. That's the angle that you would have in 100 feet of length on a curve. It's kind of like, I like to think of it that the radius and the degree of curve are related. It's kind of the expression of the radius in terms of angle. We're not going to need to know all that much this time around, but when you guys kind of get into route surveying, I know McAllister's been in this class. He knows what I'm talking about. There's a lot to all this. We don't need that much for what we're doing today, okay? But basically, our alignment is going to start out with these things which we would just call tangents, and then we're going to develop curves in through them, okay? So let's go ahead. We're going to flip over to Civil 3D now. If you haven't already fired it up, let's go ahead and do that. And there's a couple of things I want to do just to make sure that everything's right. Once our file gets fired up, we're going to set our ambient settings so that it agrees with me, okay? Anybody get stuck on anything, let me know, okay? So we can stop and handle it. Is everybody doing okay so far? Okay. All right, so if you've got Civil 3D fired up and you have a drawing file that you're into, well, mine's not in yet. Mine's still doing something. I should have had this fired up. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're into a drawing file. So let's go to the settings. This is really important if you're using degree of curve as your defining parameter, or one of the defining parameters, that you set the ambient settings up properly. So we're going to right click, drawing settings. So make sure you're at the settings tab, name of the drawing, right click. We're going to go to the ambient settings here, okay? And we're going to go down here until we find the area that is called angle. So you'll notice that you're in a degree mode, but you're in a decimal format, okay? So if you don't have that correctly, if you're doing degree of curve definition on this, you're going to get the wrong answer, okay? And that's going to affect your radius. So make sure that we set this to a DMS format, okay? We're not going to do much with degree of curve, but I just wanted to show you that because that's important. So apply that and okay that. Now, if you're not using angles any other way, then that's usually not as critical a feature. Is everybody good so far? So we're going to take that first drawing, okay? So the drawing I'm referring to, I'm going to go ahead and open this drawing up. Let's start with this drawing, and what we want to do is we want to start with this point. Let's key these points in. We can just do these with lines, or you can do it with points. I don't really care what works the best. We're going to get these 3 line sequences in, and then we'll build this around. So we're going to close this out because we're going to build a parcel. So have this available, okay? Let's have this available first thing. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to go to back here. I'm going to start into my lines. I'm going to do lines by northing and easting, okay? So just type those in and we'll check this stuff when we get done. Get yourself a few minutes to take this in, okay? Hopefully this is getting easier as we go through this. Probably won't see your line because it's probably zoomed in a different location. If you want to see your line, you might want to zoom out. So you can zoom out what you can do if you want to see your line. So our picture, remember, is going to be skewed also, by the way. Okay, so there's my first line. I'm going to go back into line by northing and easting. See if it'll let me do that. All right, won't let me do that. Hopefully you guys are having more success than me. It's kind of been one of those mornings for me. Not having much luck, guys. Hopefully you're better than me. Jeez, Pete, what's going on here? Start over. Give me a sec, guys. I'll catch up. Okay, hopefully you guys are there. How's that coming for everybody? Hopefully it was better than mine. Remember, we're rotated 90 on our picture. Is that looking good for everybody?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so let's go ahead. We're gonna do the bearings. I'm gonna go do a line by bearing, okay? So I'm gonna do a line by bearing. I'm gonna snap it to this point here. Just use a nose snap, and then that's going to be in that quadrant. So just go ahead and key that information in, and we're just gonna work this guy around. Okay, and then this one, oh, I actually have an azimuth. All right, so I'm gonna do another line by azimuth. Ultimately, if you just want to snap that closer, you can come in with that last bearing. It really doesn't matter. I'm just gonna go ahead and define that bearing. Okay, so if you're done with this, you shouldn't recognize the fact that this is probably not going to be closed down here. So we're just going to close that. We're going to fillet that. If I just use a fillet radius, set it 0, we're going to go ahead and close this. So it's going to change things just slightly, but it's not going to be a big deal. Okay, so we should have a picture that looks pretty similar to that. How's everybody doing? Okay?
Yep.
All right. All right, so we're going to create the alignment feature, but we're not going to make it an alignment yet. And then we're going to create a parcel as well. So what I want to do, if you notice, I have a line that's coming in at a certain bearing and distance, which happens to be a 90-degree bearing, and one over this way, and then we're going to kind of connect those guys in. So what we're going to do is snap a line perpendicular to this from the midpoint, and we're going to travel 405 feet. Okay, so we're going to go into line, create line perp from point. Okay, and I'm going to select this line right here, snap the midpoint as the point you want to use right there, and then just type in the distance. It's 405, and then you can hit enter. Okay, so this is going to represent the alignment coming in, and we're going to do the alignment going out same way, perpendicular to this at its midpoint. So these are all commands we've used at this point, so hopefully they're getting used to you. Create a line perpendicular from point. Going to go perpendicular to this line. I'm also going to snap a midpoint. And then I'm giving you a distance of 388.00. So there's our two lines. And we're going to connect those in with just a line point to point. Snap in point to end point. How's everybody doing? Any questions, anybody so far?
Nope.
I'm gonna go ahead and save mine real quick. You guys might want to too, and that way if anybody does crash through this process, I can send you the drawing file or something, okay? Like we did last time. I think we had some issues. It's probably a good idea to establish that, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Give me a sec here. Okay. Is everybody all right? No questions?
No.
Okay. So we're going to create a parcel out of this guy right here, and then we're going to generate this line through here, which is going to give me an alignment. Now, I probably will split it into two parcels once we do that. So we're going to go ahead, go to parcel. We're going to create parcel from objects. So don't worry about which order you pick them, just make sure you get them all, and that they have to be closed, so hopefully you closed it, okay? We're going to generate a site. Now, sites are going to be important too, because not only do parcels have to go on that, but if you want to use this alignment to create another parcel from, you have to put that alignment on that site, right? So we'll go ahead and use a property. And if you want, because it's kind of nice to see, instead of the parcel name, let's do the name, area, and perimeter. Do not have it annotate for you. And it doesn't really matter whether you erase existing or not, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I have my parcel now that's showing up, and I'm going to just pull this, likes to put it in the centroid. I'm just going to chuck it over here. So we should see that approximately 9.48 acres. Is that good for everybody?
Was that a site or a parcel?
Well, it's a parcel, but it belongs to a site, Dave.
Okay, I understand the concept of parcels, but not sites so much.
Okay, here's how to think about it. Think about a parcel being a lot within a subdivision, and the subdivision is the site.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Your author in the book, he calls a site, I don't like this description, but he says, think of a site as a bucket that holds everything. I guess it's okay to think of it, but I think because it really, we use them more like it would be subdivision and lots within it kind of thing. So, but it just, when you have a site, If an object doesn't belong to the site, it won't interact with other objects within it, okay? We're gonna see that if we don't do that with alignments, that works that way as well. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, so you're just defining the relationship.
Yep, that's what it really is. It's in a relationship kind of thing. So surface, I don't know if surfaces, I'm not sure they can be part of sites. I think they can, but alignments definitely can. I think corridors, so some of these other objects can also have sites associated with them. But it is
Seems like
go ahead.
seems like site would be pretty high up on the food chain, the hierarchy.
Yeah, it's the collection of everything that fits in it. Yeah. So I mean, you know, saying that it's a bucket that holds everything is kind of, I guess, not a bad way of looking at it. Yeah. Okay. So like if you had a subdivision and you had infrastructure outside of it, that might not be part of your site. But the sewers within it, the water lines, the right-of-ways, the lots, they're all inside of that subdivision, so they all interact with each other. Okay. We all good?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Everybody have their parcel?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to now do is create an alignment. Okay. So this thing is not an alignment currently. It's just lines. So we're going to create this into an alignment. And from that alignment, then we're going to be able to start to do this. So you're going to see this process is really, really simple. There's not much to it. So at the Home tab, we also notice right here, there's this an alignment grouping. So if we go to here, you can create it via creation tools, which I find extremely difficult. I just don't think their alignment tools are all that easy. You also can create it from points out there or objects. You can do what's called a best fit. So if you had, let's say you went out and you created a bunch of shots along a center line of a road, you can do a best fit tangent, best fit curve. So it's going to look at all the points that you think are on a line, and it's going to put a line that it thinks is the best fit through those. So it doesn't necessarily run through each point. It just tries to give you the best fit of all of them kind of idea. Then we can create it from objects, which is what we're going to do. That's the easiest. I find this the absolute easiest. And you can use either lines or polylines or curves to do this with. Some people like to use a polyline. I usually just use objects and string them together. But the key thing with this, if you don't have these guys touching endpoint to endpoint, they will not join, just like a polyline won't join. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to create from alignment from objects, and it's going to ask you to select the first line, arc, or polyline. Now, you really don't have to select them in any particular order, but I usually select the one that's going to be the 0 group coming in. So we're going to make this 0 going this way, and then it's going to head this way. So that will somewhat define direction, but you can define direction after the fact. So we don't always have to worry about that. So I'm going to pick this guy first, this guy second, and this guy third. And then we're going to hit enter. And notice there's a direction arrow. So your arrow should be going from bottom to top. If it isn't, you can do what's called a reverse direction. Okay, so we don't want to reverse direction if it's right. If it is, reverse it. If it's good, just hit enter. And it'll pop up this dialog box, which is going to create the object essentially. Okay. So what we're going to do is we can give this a name. Now it'll just call this generically. If you don't tell it anything, it's just going to call it alignment 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we want to call this, for instance, proposed road or something, we can do that. So I'm just going to call this proposed. All this is an identifier. It is nice to name them, because if you have like State Route 62 and, you know, US 50, you know, and proposed whatever within a subdivision, it's better than just calling them alignment 1, alignment 2, alignment 3. You can also name them after the fact. All right, so let's look at the types. They have in Civil 3D different types. So just a generic center line, which could be used for anything, could be the center of a sewer, it could be the center of a ditch, it could be anything. Then they have an offset alignment, which is going to be usually parallel to some other alignment. A curb return, which would typically define the back of a curb. which is going to be used for trickier types of grading kind of features. And then we have rail alignments. Now, if you're doing a railroad, railroads are a lot trickier than highways because they use a real different, what's called a degree of curve. So that's important to understand. Civil 3D just incorporated those recently. They didn't used to have those. So that's a newer feature. We're not going to worry about that. And then there's another one just called a miscellaneous, which again could just be generically used. So we're just going to use that general center line. And the other thing that always gets me, I always forget about this, when you create it, it always wants to know a starting station. So in this case, we are going to call this 0 down here. But a lot of times if you're working on a project like a highway, that starting point could actually be at 52 plus 60.83 or something. So I'll forget to do that and it's actually 0, all of my stationing's off. I can always change this after the fact. So if you don't get this right, you can change it. I really think the way they've chucked this over on the side, it really should be front and center, maybe more in the middle or something, because I always forget to do that. All right, so then here's a site. Right now, we can add this to a site or not. Right now it says none. If we want to, we can just go ahead and put it in site 1, because we're going to want to have this on site 1 to be able to create a right-of-way parcel. So go ahead and put it on site 1. If you don't do that, we can do that later. So then it has alignment styles, and this is just how they're going to look. So, you know, you have an existing, intersection, layout, offsets. So this is a proposed road. So we're going to go ahead and do propose. Okay. Alignment layer, then it automatically goes on that layer. You can change that. I just kind of let it ride. And then this is a labeling. The labeling, we're not going to do a whole lot with this labeling, but I'm going to go ahead and use this, what's called major, minor ones. You can notice they've got other styles in there. You can do no labels, all labels, major, minor only. So we're just going to go ahead and do what it says right there. And you've got an option here. We can do what's called add a curve between tangents. So in other words, we don't have curves. It's going to automatically put them in and put them in at a default radius, which is kind of nice. We can do that, or we can do this after the fact. So if you want to go ahead and just toggle this in now, we're going to use a 200-foot radius anyway. Let's just go ahead and do that. And if you want to erase existing entities, that's good. So we're just going to go ahead and hit OK. And there's your alignment. That's as hard as it gets to create an alignment. And notice the way it's stationed coming in. That's BP is your beginning station point. Notice that's 100 feet, 200 feet. When we get to this point, that's your PC, which is your point of curvature. That's at 3 plus 5119. That's where that curve is starting. So it's a straight line from the beginning to that point, but then it's hitting that green arc. Now we're in a curve at this point. So notice your PI is actually out here, all right? But the stationing is running along the green alignment. Then there's your PT, and then we have this little piece of tangent between, then we have another PC, PT, and we have that all the way into your end station. Did that work for everybody?
Yeah.
So that's as hard as it gets. Okay. Now, and the stationing or the style, I don't play with them too much, and I'm not going to have you guys play with it, but there's a lot that gets into this because these things can be, there's things that are embedded into other things within them. So this thing, if we click on this guy, you'll notice he's all one object, and then he has grips. So these are pretty cool editing tools. This allows you to, like, if I take this grip, I can move that grip. Don't do this, but if you want, I could move that over to there, and notice how that reconfigures my alignment completely. It restations it, it recalculates everything. I can pull this PI and I can change the delta angle. So I can really whack this guy out by using that. And those grips are really nice little tools. If you can get a rough alignment, then you can come through and redo some things. So let me, I don't want that alignment to look like that. So I'm gonna do a couple undos back. Gotta be careful doing undos, by the way, AutoCAD, especially with these type of objects. So notice also over here, let's go to our prospector. Under the prospector, you have an alignment section and a site section. So you might think that this alignment here is part of the alignments. If we go here, we'll look. There aren't any centerline alignments showing up. Anybody know why? Even though we have an alignment here, why there's no alignment showing up over here? Can I take a guess? They're part of the sites, okay? So if we go over to sites, notice site one, under site one, you'll now see you've got two features under that. You have the alignment. There's your centerline alignment called proposed, okay? And it has geometry, but it has no profile or anything associated with it. That's why all of this is vacant. But you do actually have a proposed alignment. Also notice, of course, you have parcels. And now you may notice that because we put that alignment in there, those parcels recognize that, hey, there's an alignment associated with this, so it split it in two. If we had not added this alignment as part of the site, this would have stayed as one parcel, okay? Does everybody have two parcels? There's a parcel to the, I guess that's to the east and one to the west.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't have two parcels, what that means is your alignment is not part of that site, okay? All right, any questions? So let's go ahead and look at some other things. Besides those grip editing tools, which are pretty cool with alignments, you can also do other types of edits. So if we go to the proposed over here, you can right click on him. Notice there's some pretty cool things you can do. Properties, add widening, what we call super elevation, which is banking on your roadways. You can move it to a site. If it's not on a site, you can delete your alignment. When we get done with this, eventually, when we've added corridors and all of that stuff, you can actually drive down your alignment, which is really a really cool design feature. It allows you to really visualize things in a major way. Let's go to, oh, this is a neat one too. If you go to zoom to, what it'll do is no matter where you are in the drawing, if I click on that and I go zoom to, it'll show me right where that profile or that alignment is. So that's a great little tool if you're searching for it. Let's go to, and you can do this either way. You can right click on that and go to properties, or you can click on it and go to properties. Okay, so either way, let's pop this box up. So this is your properties of this proposed drawing. And so you got some things like if you want to change the style in here, you can change styles pretty easily. So if I want to go from proposed to existing, it would just be a matter of selecting that. And also, by the way, when you go to proposed, if we go in here, we can look at all the things that are being displayed or not being displayed. So we can turn things on or off based on what's going on in here. You got some other design features that you can create. There's not a lot in this box, but just some things there. Station control. If you didn't create the station properly, this is where you can change the station information. So notice I said that we wanted to start this at 0, 0, but let's say we wanted that to start at actually 5 plus 0, 0, and we didn't do it initially. We can change it in here very easily. So I would just go in there, type that in, and it would change all my stationing for me. Masking is kind of cool. If you have a really big highway, and let's say this is really long and you only want to just show this piece of it, you can mask that piece out and that piece out. That's what masking's doing. This is defining how certain types of intersections will happen when it's talking about curve intersection and line work. There's other things called constraints, and then there's design criteria you can enforce. So if you're a highway designer, you would probably be using these two guys pretty much, okay? But we're not worried about that. So we're not gonna do too much in this box. But what I primarily wanted to show you with this is that if you go to the station control and you've blown the stationing, this is a great place to fix it right in here, okay? And also it's kind of neat too, it shows you the total length now of this alignment. So from the beginning of this alignment to the end of this alignment, it's 990.45 feet. So we're just going to cancel out of there. Okay, any questions on that? All right, let's look at another editing tool, or actually visualization tool. If you just click on your alignment, notice then you've got your context sensitive editing stuff that shows up here. There's your couple of your same things we just saw. There's your alignment properties box. We were just in that. The geometry editor, let's go to the geometry editor. So this little guy, this is allowing you to create objects either via line work or curves or spirals. You can edit them separately, or you can get into what's called this grid view. I like this grid view tool. So let's go ahead and click on this grid view. So it's kind of, think of this primarily like a spreadsheet. Whoops, hold on a minute. I just dismissed that. I was trying to get rid of that one box. I'm going to put this box kind of out of the way so that that's not riding up there. I'm going to turn this little guy off because he keeps, my quick props box keeps popping up. All right, so go to your grid view, and this is opening the panorama. And so what you see here is your starting station, your ending station, and each little PI within it. So notice we have line, curve, line, curve, line. Now, most of these are grayed out because they're locked up. Now, you can unlock them, and then you can edit certain things within them, but you got to be careful with what you're doing. So, like, for instance, if I unlock certain things, even though I unlock it, I'm not going to be able to do anything that's grayed out. But anything that's not grayed out is completely editable in here. So, for instance, notice, you should notice here that you have curve 1 and curve 2 here, or actually it's 2 and 4. That your radius is set to 200. So all the features here, the delta angle, the length of chord, there might be a few more that are not showing up there, but those are all set based on this radius of 200. So I could change the degree of curve to change the radius, so I could change the radius to change the degree of curve. Let's do this real quick. Go in there, just click where it says 200 in the radius and type in 500 for the radius. What that did, you can go ahead and close your box. We just made a major change by setting that to 500. Notice it set that parameter, so it changed the location of my PC, my PT, and it just changed that design completely, which is really awesome. You guys get that to work?
Yeah.
So if we click back on that, notice also anything that it recalculated based on that radius of 500, the delta angle stayed the same, but it gave me a new chord length, it gave me a new degree of curve, so all that stuff. Let's go back. We're going to make that back to 200 because we really want that to be at 200, okay? Now, again, one of the things that highway designers use, instead of radiuses, they like to use degree of curves. But surveyors, we like to use radiuses that are nice. So you'll notice that if we put a really nice radius and we get this really kind of degree minute second curvature of our degree curve. But if you change that to a nice number, you're going to get a number that's going to float out. So we'll talk about, like I said, in route surveying stuff, design, you're going to get that a lot more. All right, so we should have our good design right now. Okay, is everybody okay with that? And make sure that those are 200 and 200. Is that good? I'm going to float this guy out a little bit. So what we're going to do now, this is really one of the cool features that you can do with alignments, is you can create a parcel from this alignment. And so it'll recognize this parcel here that's already there. Actually, there's two parcels, but it'll create an alignment, and basically it creates a right-of-way for you, okay? So I can create a right-of-way different ways. I'm going to show you one way. If I want to just do a right-of-way object, not a parcel, but just an object, I can offset this alignment. So I'm going to just use the AutoCAD offset command. So we're going to go into offset. You can just type in offset or O and hit enter. And let's offset this. Let's do it 20, well, we'll do it 30 feet just to show you. So I can say offset 30 feet. I can click on this and just come over here and show it the side and do that, okay, just like that. So I can define my right-of-ways by creating other objects. Now this object is neither a parcel line, nor is it an alignment. It's just an offset. So if I click on it, it'll tell me basically that this is a polyline, I believe. Let me turn this on. Yeah, that's a polyline object. Okay, so all it did was it just generated a polyline for me, which is very convenient. So if I'm doing design, in a subdivision, let's say, once I have my alignment established, I can establish the right-of-way by just offsetting the alignment. But this is not an alignment itself. So if this alignment line changes, we change the arc, or we change something, this won't change with it. So for instance, if I click on this and I go to edit the geometry on this guy, if I go back into that grid view, let's say I go back up to 500 here. Notice I changed that to 500. But you notice here that these guys don't change because they're not linked. They're just offset objects. Does everybody see what I'm getting at? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take that back to what it was supposed to be. And we're going to go ahead and delete. I just want you to delete those polylines. I just wanted to show you you can do that. If you want to offset an alignment, you have the ability to do that. But what we're going to do, we're going to actually now create a parcel out of this alignment, okay? So there's two key criteria here that when you do this, you have to have already an existing parcel that this thing's running through, which we do, and actually we have two. And the alignment that you're going to create the parcel from has to be in the same site as these parcels, okay? So if it doesn't execute for you, your alignment is probably not part of the site. So we can verify that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to parcels, create what's now called a right-of-way parcel, okay? So what it's asking me to do at this point is to select your parcels. So we're going to subdivide this parcel and that parcel. When you're done, you're going to hit enter. And then it gives up this box. So this is your create right-of-way parcel box. It's dialog box. It's asking you for certain parameters. So the offsets from the alignment are going to be dependent on what it is left and right of this. So if you're doing an industrial subdivision, it might be 30 feet left and right. For a typical subdivision around here, and we have a 50-foot total. So it's going to be 25. So I think that's what I defined yours as. So what we want to do is make sure that we set the offset to 25. The fillet radius is what it'll do is it's going to put little fillets at the end of this where it connects in. Again, that's going to be a parameter that's usually set by whatever the agency or the jurisdiction is that you're working with. I'm just going to let that be 20 for the today rather. So just let the fillets be 20 feet, and we're going to make sure that you do the 25 here. Okay, so go ahead and hit OK, and notice that's all it took. It knew exactly what was going on there, and you should have another parcel there now. Did everybody get that to work?
What was the command that you used to initiate the whole process there?
Parcel create right away. Do you want me to step back through it?
No, that's
problem.
okay.
It's no problem. I mean, I can just undo it back.
Okay.
You want me to?
No, I just wanted to make sure, you know, sometimes you get lost in the details there.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Everybody else okay? Any questions?
No.
I want you to notice one thing here. You actually have two properties associated with this now. Does anybody know why? Why do we have two properties there? Because this parcel over here was initially the whole thing, then we split it in the middle. So this parcel ran from here to the green line, and this parcel ran here to the green line. So when it did this, it actually, we've got a parcel here that is half from the center line over to the right of way and another parcel from the center line over to the right of way. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to link these guys together. All right. We're going to link and we're going to make one parcel out of these so that we just have one. And then we're also going to change the, style on that parcel. Okay. All right. So is everybody ready? We're going to go ahead. I'm going to go to, let's see, parcel creation tools. This little guy is going to pop up right here. On this button, you have parcel union or parcel dissolve union. We're going to do a parcel union, and it doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick 3 and then 4. And then hit enter and then exit. So you should now have one parcel there. All right. And that parcel, if you click on that, you'll notice that's the parcel it's talking about. That's the right of way. It's all one now. Does everybody get that to work? You wouldn't have to do that, but it's just kind of nice. It just keeps that one condensed parcel. So notice now, this has been recalculated with the new, that parcel's been recalculated with the new area based on that area there. Notice where he is, what's highlighted there. Well, that quick properties is nice when you want it, but it's obnoxious when you don't. So that's this parcel to the east. That's the parcel to the west. And then that's the parcel of the right-of-way, roadway. Is that working for everybody? Everybody okay with that? We're going to be doing that in our lab, but so we're doing other things than just dealing with alignments, which is kind of cool. What I wanted to show you again, these things are dynamically linked. Any questions?
No?
Everybody keeping up okay? You guys all have 3 parcels?
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, let's change some things up here now. So first, this one thing, we got this obnoxious label here, so we're going to get rid of that. The other thing is I want to change the style on that. So go ahead and click on your property parcel that's associated with that road. And we're going to go to parcel properties. So for the, let's see if I can do it in here. What I want to do is let's see, information. Yeah, go to the information tab. For the object style, the parcel style, let's set that to a road style and apply that. You'll notice it changes color basically. So the other thing that we're going to do is go to composition. And instead of having that label on there, I don't want to see that label. So we're going to set that label to none. Go ahead and apply that and get rid of it. All right. So it's still there. Everything's good. Notice over here, you still have parcel 1, parcel 2, parcel 3. I can still get to that thing if I need to, but I just got it out of my way. Is everybody okay with that? Any questions? This is a really cool tool if you are dealing with a subdivision type roadway. So now that I have this all divided, now you could use your parcel tools like we did before. I will tell you this though, if you have a cul-de-sac on this road, that tool doesn't work great. So what you have to do is you're going to have to edit that parcel after the fact. It's not going to be perfect. So if this guy came up here and we had a cul-de-sac right here, this would be a little harder to deal with. I would have to fix a lot of the stuff. I can do it. It's not hard to do, but it just requires you to edit your parcel a little bit more. Okay. Any questions? All right. Okay, one other thing I want to show you, and this is important to understand also, even though this guy's dynamically linked to other things, like it can be dynamically linked to a surface or a corridor or a profile, interestingly enough, and I think this is really bad, it's not dynamically linked to my parcel. So the problem is if we change the alignment, we're going to go in and change the geometry on this. Again, I'm going to just change that radius to, because I've been using that. If I change that radius to 500, notice what happens. If you change the alignment, the parcel doesn't change. So there is no dynamic linking between this guy and the parcel itself. That to me is a bad thing, and I guess it's just the way they've built this. I'm hoping that they would change that, because it would be really nice from a design standpoint if you had a right-of-way in there and you wanted that to move with your alignment. It's not going to do that. Okay, that's the only downside to this. So what that says is if you are designing something, you got to make sure that it's right before you go further, because you're not going to be able to fix it very easily. All right, so I'm going to take that back to what we wanted. All right, did everyone understand what I was getting at there?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at, let's look at some labeling kind of things. And well, let's look at the editor. I think we've looked at the editor. This, to me, go ahead and let's do this. Just click on your alignment. And if you right click, you have several tools here that are important. Move to site, copy to site, alignment properties, which you can also get up here. Edit alignment style, edit alignment geometry, or alignment labels, edit. So if we go to the geometry, it just brings up this box. But there's some cool tools out there. I still think this grid is one of the best things that you can use. But they have some other tools. So you can isolate, you can like select one feature. So I can convert these guys back to AutoCAD lines. I can come up here, I can reverse the direction on a sub-entity, or I can delete a sub-entity. I'll explain a sub-entity here in a minute. You can pick a sub-entity and then you can look at its features. We're going to do that. So basically, each line or arc is considered a sub-entity. So that line's a sub-entity, that's a sub-entity, that arc, that line, arc. So we really have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember, this is considered right now one object. If we wanted to look like, say, right at that arc, we could hit this guy and select your sub-entity right there. And then notice what it does over here. This box should pop up for you. And it's giving me all the information based on that. And anything that is open here is not grayed out. It's available to edit. So you can get some information about your sub-entity. You can also edit it. And again, you could also like delete a sub-entity. I mean, I don't do that too much, but you can do stuff like that if you want to. So again, I can select that guy. That was weird. Should select my sub-entity. I think you have to have the alignment selected first. Anyway, I don't do that too often. I still personally use the grid view the most. That to me, this is one of the best features of that. And everything's shown to you right here, and everything's either editable or it's not. Okay. You can also lock features up. Any questions on that? We're not going to do too much editing. Once we get this guy in place, we're going to pretty much just do it that way. All right. Any questions? Okay. Let's start to look at some of the labeling issues. Okay. So associated with this guy here, besides the label style or the style of the alignment itself, you also have a label style that's showing up. So notice when you click on this guy, this is your labels associated with that. And you might notice when I click on that, these guys are like separate labels, so it gets a little involved. So the stationing here, we have that going on, and then I might not want all of this. Notice down here, I have beginning point at 0, 0, and I also have 0, 0. It's possible for me to delete some of this. Watch, if I don't want this guy here, and I want to keep that there, I can hold the control key and click on that. Notice it only selects that one. All right, I'm going to do that again. Go down here, hold the control key down, and then select that. So it allows you to select just that one, and then you can do a delete. All right, so instead of deleting the whole thing, I can just delete that one piece. Come up to the top, I can do the same thing. If there's a station up here that I really don't want to see, because notice there's two, I'm going to click on this guy. It's going to shift, or I'm sorry, control, and then click. Now the difference is if I click on that, I get all of them. So if I hit the delete now, it's going to take all of them out. Are you guys seeing the difference? So if you hold the control key down and then click on the one you want, and then you can just delete one singly, it leaves the rest of your stationing intact. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at this station labeling stuff. That's there's a lot to it. So if we click on this guy right here, we're going to right click and we're going to go to edit the alignment labels. So this box is a little bit involved, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, but this is showing you, like over here, whether you're talking about your major stations, your minor stations. So all of these things are associated with different stuff. Notice I got major stations. You have what's called this parallel with tick, or perpendicular with line, perpendicular with tick, and then this gets really, really involved. We're not going to get into this all that low, but you have to deal with this a lot if you're going to do certain types of labeling. But I can change all of these styles, and the biggest aspect of this, a lot of this just gets overwhelming. That's what I've found. You have to play with it a lot, and we don't need to all that much. We're going to just let it kind of roll. Usually it does what you need, okay? But knowing how to delete it, like I showed you, is pretty cool. All right, this one also, these guys are different, and these can be moved around as well. One of the things that's nice about these guys are linked like leaders. So you can pull this guy out. So if you don't like that sitting there, which is kind of nice, I can just move that. And I can move that one. And I can also, by the way, I can delete those guys singly if I want to too. So there's the actual end station, actual begin. These guys can all be moved as well if you want to move them. So there's a lot in that labeling that gets involved. Let me see if I can edit that label. So again, it's going to take you back to this, and you really have to figure out what label you're talking about, because it's just not talking about all of these. That's what we're looking at here. So I'm gonna, on our stuff, I'm not gonna have you do all that much with that kind of stuff. Okay, we're gonna pretty much let that ride as it is. Any questions on that though? Okay, we're going to add labels now. Besides, when you generate the alignment, it comes in with a style and it comes in with a label set. So basically, you have the alignment style, the station label set, and then these are your geometry label sets. So it comes in with those automatic. But there's other things we might want to add on here. So for instance, we don't see a bearing and a distance on this, or we don't see curve data here. So we might want that, bearing and distance, curve data. So that kind of stuff is pretty important. So you can do that a couple different ways. On a tangent, you can use your normal annotation that we've used for just normal lines, but you can't just click on the alignment because it has its own tools that are associated with it. So we're going to do the alignment labeling tools. So we're going to go to annotate, we're going to add labels, and we're going to add them for the alignment. So notice you've got add alignment labels, you can do station offsets, you can do single segment labels or multiple segment labels, You can also build tables. I'll kind of show you how to do all of this. So we're going to go to this add alignment labels. Pops up this box that you've been dealing with before. Notice if we open this up, we can go to any of those other things we've done. We've done line and curve, we've done parcel, but notice they have other ones. So we should be under alignment. So for the label type right now, mine says station offset fixed label. What I want to do, I want to do a what's called single segment. And then under single segment, you either are doing basically a line, a curve, or a spiral. Now we don't have any spirals. We get into spirals in the highway stuff, but we do have lines and curves. So for the line label, what I want to have here is just a bearing and a distance. Okay. Now this is the same basic bearing distance that you've used before. And for the curve label, let's see what they've got in here. We have delta over length and radius. So let's go ahead and we'll select that. So I want to go in here and add, and I just select the, first you have to tell it what station you're labeling, and then it hits it. So go ahead and put it in. There's that one. There's this one. There's this one. And it's not going to be real nice at first. We'll clean it all up. Okay, so once you get those in, go ahead and close them. And then you can hit enter, okay? So let's start down here. Just like the other label we've dealt with, this style is not exactly what we want to see, so we're going to fix it. So I want to click on that style, right click. We're going to go to edit label style. This is a bearing over distance style. Edit it. First off, you've got a direction arrow showing up. Let's take that visibility and turn it false. Open this guy. We've got the bearing. We're going to click on the general segment. This has both a bearing and a distance in it, so I'm going to click up here. Notice that's degree minutes second, but it's to a 1/10 of a second or 100th of a second. I want that to 1 second. So hopefully you're getting used to this. We're going to promote that. We're going to come down here for the distance, make that 1/100th of a foot, promote that. And the other thing I want to do, let's see. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and okay that. I want to set the size down a little bit. I'm going to knock my size down to 0.1. So we're going to go ahead and apply that and okay that and close it. And notice it fixed it. Any of the bearings that were doing that, they're all fixed. What we probably need to do though is flip it. So I'm going to go here, right click and flip that label on the other side. Might want to flip this label on the other side and flip this label on the other side. So it's basically like doing a line label, but it's a little different. So notice because of where this is, it may conflict with your little tick mark, but also remember down here, this is what's impacting that. So as you change the size of things, that can make a difference. Okay, did everybody get that to work? That should be stuff that we've seen before. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, while I'm talking about flips, I forgot to show you, you can flip these guys too. If you click on this, you can't right click flip, but if you come up here, notice there's a flip label. The one you clicked on, it actually flips. It doesn't flip them all. Okay, so you have to click on the one you want to flip and then it'll flip it. It's kind of weird, but it's just different. All right, any questions? All right, so let's look at the curve data. So this curve data is pretty nice, but I don't like the way it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this, and we're going to definitely pull this out as a leader. So I want you to pull that leader out like that, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Now, interestingly enough, these guys all go on different layers, so that stuff can all be moved around. But I think if you notice this guy, that goes on the C road text layer. That might be on the same. Let me see. They're both on the same layer, but they're different colors. So you have color overrides going on, okay? So the good news is that these are on the same layer. So from a management standpoint, you got that, but that's what you got there, okay? Any questions so far? All right, what do we notice about this style that is probably not good?
The delta angle is not in DMS.
Well, I don't even know because it doesn't have a degree symbol, does it? Right?
Yeah.
But it probably is decimal degrees, you're right. And what do we notice about the lengths? They're what?
Thousand.
Yeah, they're to the thousandth of a foot and they don't say feet. So again, we've got some issues. So we're going to clean these labels up. And actually, I think I'm going to have you add something too while we're at it, okay? So we're going to go ahead and click on this label. And we're going to right click. And we're going to go to edit the label style. So this is what they're calling a delta over length and radius. Now, if you don't want to edit this, you can make a copy of this and then we can create our own, okay? But we're just going to go ahead and edit it. So this one's a little tricky just because the way they've created it. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this, but yeah. If you are at the layout tab, which mine came up automatically, notice that our text heights are automatically set to a 10th. So again, I don't know the rhyme or reason why some of the way they did some of this stuff in Civil 3D. I don't have the answer. But this one is probably the height I want. But I do want to come up here and I want to go to, there's different values here. So the first one I want to do is go to delta. Click on delta. Click on this guy. And so notice there's your information. It's hard to see that on mine, but if you click on that, that is the information for the delta angle and the symbol for delta sitting out there. So that's been added as a separate piece of text. But you'll notice, as Dave indicated, that the format here is decimal degree. So what we're going to do is set that to DMS. And we're going to make that 1 second, promote that, and OK that. So then we're going to go to the distance, which is an arc length distance. And notice it says L is equal to something. So we're going to click on that. We're going to click on that piece of it. And we're going to, it's in feet. We're going to set the precision to 1/100th of a foot. Go ahead and promote that. And then at the end of this, what I want you to do, make sure you get to the end of it, put a foot mark, and then OK that. And then we're going to do the radius and do the same thing. Notice they've got the R out there referenced. Click on the actual value, change that to 1/100th of a foot, come out to the end, put the foot mark, go ahead and OK that. Oh, I don't know if I promoted that. I might have done that twice. Let me cancel that. I might have screwed that one up. Hold on a minute. I was talking, I forgot to do it, I think. Let me, let's see. And I'm going to apply what I got here. Let me check that again. Yeah, I didn't, I thought I screwed that up. I need to make that 1/100th of a foot, promote it, and then come out here. Those are the things you forget to do all the time. So I'm going to put a foot mark. We're going to OK that, apply it, and OK it again. One more OK, and everything should be good. So yours now should be reading delta, length, and R. There's supposed to be a way to flip these guys. So if you want that to say Delta LR, it doesn't really work very well. I think there's probably a way to do it, but it's really hard to figure it out. So what I've usually actually done is the one you create first is the one that's going to be on the top. And then you have to kind of create them in the order that you want them. Did everybody get that to work? Notice that's good for that one. And that's good for that one. Any questions on that? A little tricky. Are we okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's try something. We're going to see if we can get this to work. I want to add some stuff to this, okay? So I want to add the chord information. So I'm going to click on this and edit the label style. Now again, like I said, if you were really doing this, you might want to create your own style so that you're not adding something or, you know, messing something up. What I'm going to do is do what's called an add. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see, create. Let's see. Wait a minute. Let's copy. All right. So I'm going to add a text component. Reference text. Yeah, that's not going to work. Hold on a minute, guys. This gets a little tricky. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to add another piece of text to this, all right? But what we're going to do is get it from, we're going to have it harvest it from Civil 3D 4. So this is a little tricky when you set these up, but I'm gonna add actually underneath the radius another piece. We'll see if this will work. So if you were in there already, just go ahead and cancel out. So I'm going to try this again. So right click on, or select that, right click and go to edit alignment labels. Oh, geez, wrong one. I want to edit this label, edit label style. Why am I having so many problems? It's kind of been that way for me today. Edit label style. It's been that way for me all day. All right, so we're going to go ahead and select that. I want you to go to the radius. Let's see if we can get this to work. Click on this guy. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna add something to this. So click on the radius if you were there. It keeps knocking me out. Let me try this again. Style. Go to radius. You guys are probably already there. So what we're gonna do is find what's called degree of curve arc. Set it to degree minutes seconds, 1 second, and promote it. So it should have added it to this. We're gonna okay that, apply it. No, it did it. It didn't do it the way I wanted it to. We can edit it, but let's not worry about it. We'll get rid of that. There's ways to do this. I mean, this is what I said. Labels get to be really tough. You have to play with them a lot. I know what I didn't do here. We'll fix it. Go to your radius. just click on the one that says degree of curve and just go ahead and delete it. And then we'll okay that. We'll just fix it back. We'll do that later, okay? But you can actually add other components. I'm sorry about that. I'll show you guys in class how to do it. It's a lot easier to do it in person than it is on a computer screen. Did everybody get it fixed back to what it was? One of the things I do like to do, sometimes I don't like this little arrow. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go in here and under the label style, I'll turn that arrow off. So what this allows me to do is if I want that guy off under the, let's see, under the arrow visibility, let's see, drag state. Got to go to the drag state, sorry. Under the leader visibility, I'll turn that leader off to false. So the nice thing there is that you can have this guy, you can just float him kind of anywhere, and he doesn't have that leader associated with it. A lot of people like doing that. So like you can put that there, and usually that information is contained right in there. Okay, so you don't have to do that. I mean, it's just it just depends on what your view is. Everybody okay so far? I'm sorry about going on a little ramble. I'll show you on Wednesday how to do a little bit more of this label stuff. It's a little bit easier in person. Any questions so far? As you can see, the labeling is probably the biggest deal. And actually, when we get into profiles, profiles will drive you nuts because their labeling is even a little bit more involved. Well, actually a lot more involved. All right. Any questions? Everybody still there? Hanging in with me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to show you some point stuff. Once you have your alignments and you have, let's say, you know, they're fixed, you got your labels, all of that good stuff. Now you can use them to do other things. So one thing is to build a profile, which we'll be doing next week. And then ultimately you can do grading from that. So you can create a roadway corridor, which I'll probably be doing that with you the following week because that's actually really cool stuff. And it's also grading issues that we want to get into. But the other nice thing is that you can create points or generate points if you're doing stakeout or you need this information out in the field for your field crews, you can do that. So we're going to generate points on this guy at selected geometric features like the beginning, the PC, the PI, and it's going to label everything for us. So what we're going to do is go over here to points. We're going to do the points creation tool. So let's pop this guy out. I'm having problems. Hold on a minute. My system's kind of running a little funky today. I don't know what it is. No, it won't. Oh, there it goes. Wow, that's really weird. I'm going to do something real quick. Let me go ahead and save this drawing. I'm going to close it and open it right back up. Give me a sec. Sometimes I think my graphics gets messed up. All right, so we're going to go to the, now what's going on? There we go. All right, there we go, it's fixed. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up some point creation information. So this is kind of cool because when you're doing with alignments, you can set this up. So let's go to the points creation section and prompt for elevation because we're not dealing with elevations and we don't want to do that. Let's just set that to none right now. So it'll give it no elevation. So this tool is really cool where it says prompt for descriptions, and we've been using a manual prompt, but you can do it either automatic by setting up a value, which we'll be doing here in a sec, or you can do it automatic by object. So when you do it automatic by object, it knows what kind of object you're talking about. And when it hits a PC, it'll label it PC. And when it hits a PT, it'll label it PT for you. So it's really neat the way that works. So we're going to use automatic. I want to come down here to the default point identity, excuse me. And instead of using point number 1, let's just start ours at 50. So we're going to say that's 50, and we're going to use sequential numbering, okay? All right, so I made 2 major changes, or 2 here. No prompt for elevation, automatic object under point creation, and then I made my point next numbering 50, and we put it true to sequential. So we're going to now come up to this guy under points, and we're going to do under alignments. Notice there's station and offset point, divide, you have measure, you have add alignment geometry, radial, perpendicular. We're going to do what's called add alignment geometry. So all we have to do is select this guy and then hit enter for the starting point and ending for the end point. And it did all your alignments for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and close this box. You'll notice that you have an X there. You have X's at, those are your points. And we're not seeing probably any point style on them. So let's go over to our point setting. I think it actually, no, it just dumped them in the all points point group, but you can actually even create a point group for it. So let's go ahead and right click point group properties. So you have the basic style, which is fine. Let's set this to point number and description. Apply that and okay that. And you'll notice now what that did for you. So at each point, it tells you the number. This is the proposed roadway. That's the alignment name. And this is the beginning station. So when it got to the PC, notice what it did for you. It gave you that information. Gave me, that's my center point or my radius point. Midpoint of the curve, there's your PI. And it labels all that for you, which is just really awesome the way that works. You guys get that to work for you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty cool tool, isn't it? Takes a lot of work away from you. So the nice thing is now you have these points. If you wanted to give somebody out in the field this information, they know exactly what they're dealing with. And we can create a point group with this very nicely now. So we just go in to point groups, create a new group. We'll call this our alignment or proposed, whatever you want to do. What we want to do on this is go into include all of the points with a raw description of proposed. Now, if I just say that, I won't get any points. But if I put a star after this, what it will do is it'll pick up anything. So if I say raw description with proposed point list, notice there's all my points and you can see my descriptions. They're all different, but it has the word proposed in front. So I can apply that and we'll get us, let's create a blank group too, just so we can manage. So for blank, we don't want anything. So remember, we want blank set to none. We want points set to none. A description. Make sure that you include everything in this point group. And that should get those guys out of there. Okay, everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, so let's show you another thing we can do with points. Let's say we've got a something happening left and right of the center line, and we know station and offset information. So we can establish points by station and offset. And I'm just going to do this really simply. So what we're going to do is let's create a point group here. We're going to just call this point group easement. So we're just going to say we have an easement running on the side of our alignment. And we don't have any points in here yet, but we will once we start to enter them. So I'm going to put raw descriptions with easement. Okay. And notice, of course, there's nothing in that list that hits that criteria, but that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and apply that and okay that. and make sure that easement is above blank. Okay, everybody good? Okay, so we're going to go into our point creation tool. So we're going to do some settings in here to help us automate this a little bit. So we're going to go into the points creation section where we had object automatic before. We are going to set that to automatic. And what we're going to do is set the default description to easement. Okay. We're going to step our point identity to, I'm going to beef that up. So I'm going to start with 0.100 and use true for the sequential. Okay. So point creation, automatic, easement, and then we had the point identity, it was 100. So we're going to this time do what's called a alignment by station and offset. So this is an awesome tool because what this allows you to do is create your station and offset information. I'm going to close this little box. If you just click your alignment, okay, so notice it's asking me to drag a station. So I can do this by just dragging. Watch when you hit your curve. This line goes radial, now it's perpendicular, so it's radial, perpendicular. So you got to understand your stations. Your stations are going to be the distance along the station, and your offset is going to be the distance perpendicular or radial to that. So let's start at, it's asking me for baseline stationing, just type in 0 and hit enter. And let's start that offset at, let's see, 45 feet. Now, if you want to go left, you have to be negative 45. So we're going to do it to the left side. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to do a negative 45 and hit enter. And you should see easement 1 pop in. Let's go to station 250 and type that into 50. Let's do negative 50, excuse me. You do positive, is going to zip on the other side. Okay, so you should see another easement point. I'm going to go up to station 400, and we're going to go negative 65. Does everybody see how that's working? I'm going to come up to 500 and negative 65. So this is how highways work in terms of what they call station offset. I'm going to go to 645, and the offset will be negative 65. And you can just keep doing that. So I'm going to do that up at 900. And then the station will be a negative 50. Okay, and then when you're done, just hit the escape key. You guys getting that to work? Any questions on that? Not hearing any questions. I guess we're okay. That's a really cool tool when you are dealing with anything that's on a highway or alignment, whatever. So remember, the offset's always going to go to the perpendicular off of that point. So you go, station is this direction, offset is this direction. Station offset, station offset. Any questions? No questions? Okay. We may need to update our points over here. So if we right click, we can update and update easement. And those guys are all set. So you would now be able to construct a line from that point to that point to that point if you wanted your easement line in. So here's another way you could develop that. So we could use another tool here under the line commands. They have a create line by offsets, line offset. So we're looking for line by station offset right here. So this tool is basically exactly like the point tool, except it's doing endpoints of a line. So we would select the alignment, and we tell it the station. So I'm going to start at 0 this time, and I'm going to do right this time 45 feet. And then I'm going to come up to here to 200, and then I'm going to do right 50 feet. So there's my line. Then I'm going to go to station, let's say 400, and I'm going to do right 65 feet. So again, it's what's happening on this side is the same thing that's happening on this side. It's just different. You're either using lines to create it, or you're using points to create it. Points are nice and desirable because we can take that information out into the field, and then use our crews can then use these points to stake points out from. Any questions?
No?
Working pretty okay for you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so here's a really neat tool. This, besides being able to establish things by station offset, you can also label things station offset. So in a set of plans, very often what you're going to see is the station and offset of that endpoint right there. I don't know what that is right now just by looking at it, but I can tell you what it is by doing a station offset label. So if we go over to the annotate, and we go to add labels, we're going to do an alignment label, add labels. This time I want to do a station offset. So they have two options there, what they call station offset and station offset fixed point. They really pretty much do the same thing. I'm going to do this guy called station offset fixed point. Now this one is set up right now. It's going to give me the station, the offset, but you can also have station offset and coordinates. Okay, so let's just do station offset now. And we're going to go ahead and hit add. So you have to tell it what station you're talking about, or I'm sorry, alignment. And then you just pick a point. So if I come over here and use that O snap right there, there's a point. Let's snap to that node right there. Snap to a node. I can snap over to, I can snap to that point right there. I could snap to that point right there. Okay, so get a couple of those lines in, or a couple of those labels in. And notice once you have them in, when you click on them, you get this grip right here, and you can move that grip, and that'll allow you to label that. So remember, we entered that stuff, but now it's showing us directly what that point is. So if I need to know what that point is right there, oh, it's all labeled. So on a set of plans, this is really awesome. Okay. To do this by hand or the old way you have to do this, it was really a lot of work. That's just really so cool. Has everybody seen how that works? Is everybody getting that to work for them? Any questions? That's not getting not much info for you guys today.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so watch what's cool about this now. Okay, two things would be cool. These guys are dynamically linked to this. So if this guy moved, these guys are going to move with it. Okay, so in other words, they're going to, the point will stay where it is, but the station and the offset's going to update. So if I actually move that line to the left, this would have a different offset and a different station. But watch what's also cool. If you pick on this guy and you pick that guy's grip, notice as I move this around, do you notice how that's changing in terms of station and offset? As I go towards the 0, it's getting closer to 0. Get away from it, it gets to a larger offset. If I get on this side, it's a negative, it's a left offset, it's a right offset. That's just like such a really cool little tool. It just shows me exactly where I am. So if I want to come up to that point right there, I just labeled that. So I know right there what that is. And as I move it graphically or dynamically, it's giving me all that information. That to me is one of the neatest things about it. This, by the way, if you notice, if you let your cursor sit there long enough, it does the same thing. So just put your cursor somewhere and let it sit there a minute, and it'll pop out, hey, you're at proposed this, station that. And as I move that away, it gets bigger. So this isn't as good as this because that's a fixed marker, but those are really nice tools. Any questions? Please keep in mind, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg on these alignments, but for what we're doing, we don't need to get that in depth. But when you get into highway designers, they use this stuff all the time, all over the place. No questions? Well, you guys are tough today, really. All right, 2 more things, and then I'm gonna let you guys get out of here. I want to show you how to look at the toolbox. There's a couple of things you can do in that. Let's do this too. If you click on your alignment, up here there's some other cool tools that we'll get into. If I get to do a corridor, and I think I'm going to, you can actually drive down this road, which is really awesome. But we have to be able to generate profiles, which we'll be doing next week. You can generate an offset corridor from this, or I'm sorry, an offset alignment from this alignment, but it is actually, notice when you do that, it's going to be dynamically linked and parallel to this. So the downside is for like highway work, a lot of your alignments that are going to be to the left or the right of it aren't necessarily parallel. So this tool only works well for you if you're truly parallel alignment. If you're not a true parallel alignment, then you probably want to do it some other method. Okay, but I could offset this guy over here and have another alignment associated with that. So in that case, if this guy moved, that one would move with it. So they're linked that way. So we wouldn't use that too much. Let's go to the toolbox here. If you don't have the toolbox open, by the way, you can go back to your home tab. Your toolbox is that little guy. So if that's turned off, that won't show up on your prospector here. So go ahead and turn that on if it's not there. And we're going to just go to that toolbox. So there's some kind of nice little tools in here. There's not a bunch that we would use, but you have, let's see, under the reports manager, you've got, let's see, you have, yeah, there's alignments. So you can do things like alignment curve, or you can design criteria. You can actually generate legal descriptions. I can stake it out. So if I wanted to, let's say, alignment curve, if I right click on that and execute it, basically it just accept the defaults, and oh, it's gonna, that's not what it'll generate a report, but let me see if it'll do it. Yeah. So you'll get this HTML report, and what it's showing you is information like your delta, your radius value. So each curve, it gives you information about that. That might be nice to have for archive value. Notice also this thing's really wanged out there for 14 sig figs, so you can fix some of that on that in these reports. Another tool that they have in here is under miscellaneous utilities. You also can go down to, let's see, there's should be one for reports alignments. There's a horizontal alignment report. You can right click here, execute it. This one's a little bit friendlier. So if I create the report, it shows me that right there. And that can be utilized to, also it shows me everything along the alignment. So that's my starting point, its coordinate values, the line, its bearing and its distance that it's on, coordinates at the PC, there's your curve information. And it just gives me that list out. So again, this would be nice to just have and kind of archive to have it. You could also take this report, this information could be pasted to a clipboard kind of thing, and then you could generate it that way. We're not going to do too much with reporting, but that capability is built into that. Any questions? Okay, so one other thing which is kind of nice, is if you want to bring this alignment into another drawing, you got a couple of ways to do it. One would be to save this drawing and then like insert it, or save as and open it, but then it's the same drawing. But if you didn't want all this other stuff that came with it, you can create what's called a land XML export. So what we could do is create our alignment. You click on your alignment. Let's see, where is this? I gotta find this now. There's a way to export this. Let's see, let me go back to my prospector. Yeah, I think I do it this way. Go back to your prospector tab, and we're going to go into the site under alignments. Okay, so what I want you to do is find the site, site 1, alignments, go to your proposed. We're going to right click on that. We're going to do what's called export land XML. So you can do this with any civil object. Surfaces, alignments, profiles. What this allows you to do is generate a file that just has that information. So notice what it's going to give you, basically your centerline information. So if I hit OK, it's going to want to know where to save this file. I'm going to just save this to a location on my desktop. Just going to call it drawing 1 save XML. Okay, so it's saved that. So I can actually come to another drawing that doesn't have this in it. I can now insert this XML file back into this. So notice that alignment has now been generated in this file, but there's nothing else. So it's just got that. This is a great way of sharing information between people where you may not want to share everything. I don't necessarily need my parcels. I don't need all that other crap or clutter. I just need the alignment. So this is now created as an alignment in Civil 3D. This is also a highly useful tool when you are sharing information with people that don't use Civil 3D. So for instance, there's another program called Carlson that is widely used out in the industry. A lot of companies use that. And Carlson can't read Civil 3D files and vice versa. So if I open up a Carlson file, all I get is arcs and lines. I don't get any of the intelligence. But if I want to get everything on this alignment, I just send them an XML file. They can open up the XML file and it converts it to Carlson versions. Okay, it's a way cool tool of sharing information. In fact, I'm gonna, on the next assignment we do where we're doing a surface, I'm gonna give you guys a surface as an XML, and you'll open that up and you'll start it from that point. So so it's very necessary tool, and it's things to understand very much so when you get into civil. All right, so we did a lot today. The creation of these is pretty simple. Labeling gets a little bit trickier, as you saw, especially when you want to add those kind of labels. But we'll work through some of that on Wednesday. But this is what we're going to be doing. Actually, a drawing pretty similar to this. I'm going to have you do it, of course, in Paperspace, which doesn't really change anything. It just means you have to deal with that a little bit more. Okay? Any questions?
No.
I am going to go ahead and just